All right. Hi, everyone. We're so excited to be talking with you today. We are the AmeriCorps service members based in the Cape Fear area, and we are affiliated with Conservation Trust of North Carolina. We wanted to talk a little bit about all the different places that we've traveled to throughout North Carolina and dive a little deeper into our host sites. So we're just going to introduce ourselves really fast.
So I'll start. Hi, my name is Audrey, and I'm the AmeriCorps service member at Cape Fear River Watch. I'm originally from Arkansas. I have my bachelor's from Tufts University and my master's in forest and nature conservation from Wageningen University. And I just moved here to Wilmington for this experience. Emma, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Emma. I was the service member at the Bald Head Island Conservancy, and I am originally from Virginia, and I went to school at Virginia Tech in Blacksburg, Virginia, where I got my bachelor's in environmental science and a minor in green engineering. And yeah, I think that Kelsey is next.
I'm Kelsey, and I'm the AmeriCorps service member at the Coastal Land Trust. I'm from Durham, North Carolina, and I got my bachelor's at Appalachian State University in Sustainable Development and Recreation Management, and I'm currently in Wilmington right now.
Awesome. And I'm Katie. I am the AmeriCorps service member at UNCW Marinequest. I got my undergraduate degree from Temple University in Philadelphia in English, so I'm kind of the odd one here, but I'll be continuing on at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington for my master's in environmental studies. All right.
So we're going to start off at Haw River State Park, and Emma's going to talk a little bit about what we did there.
Yeah, so we all met for the very first time at Haw River State Park in North Carolina, and we all came together as a cohort for the very first time. So it was really cool. There was 17 members serving all across the state of North Carolina, and all from very different backgrounds. And so it was just a great place to do some bonding and a lot of training. We learned about all things AmeriCorps, so everything about how to record our hours and manage volunteers, and we even did some EE training and community emergency response training. So it's just a great place to kind of explore North Carolina and get ready to go serve at our host sites.
So next we're going to jump over to downtown Wilmington to my host site, Cape Fear River Watch. The mission of Cape Fear River Watch is to protect and improve the water quality of the Cape Fear River Basin for all people through education, action, and advocacy. So I was the AmeriCorps environmental educator there. Something I did was I taught the Enviroscape, which is about watersheds and water quality and water pollution, to 8th grade science classrooms in New Hanover County. I also helped get new volunteers for our citizen science program called Creek Watchers, where they do monthly observations of the health of a creek. I've started leading paddle tours through Eagles Island, talking about the natural history of the island. And I also help prepare and lead field trips at Greenfield Lake, mostly for 4th graders. Next, we're going to jump up to the Lock and Dam, #1 on the Cape Fear River. Cape Fear River Watch has an educational center there, and as the AmeriCorps member, it was sort of my responsibility to organize and promote field trips and other types of outings there. We have an educational rain garden full of native plant species, and we also have a bottomland hardwood boardwalk and a fishing pier, so I also led field trips there and managed the rain garden. Next, we're going to jump all the way over to Bald Head Island, and Emma's going to talk a little bit about the Conservancy.
Great. So I was at the Bald Head Island Conservancy, like I said before, and that is on the very southeastern tip of North Carolina. So it's just across the mouth of the Cape Fear River from Southport, and the only way to get there is by ferry. So it's a golf cart only island, which was really cool and made it a very pristine natural habitat to do environmental education in. A little bit about the Bald Head Island Conservancy as an organization. It's an environmental nonprofit organization whose mission is fostering barrier island stewardship and research through conservation, preservation, and education. And so I was mostly involved with the education side of things. So I did field trips for 6th grade students from Brunswick County. We did a really big field trip program where we brought over 1,000 students to the island, and it was funded by a Duke Energy grant. And that was really great. We taught them all about barrier island ecosystems and showed them around this really cool habitat. And then I also did a lot of work with 4th grade students up in New Hanover County, as well as citizen science projects on the island and volunteer events. So all sorts of things, and it was a really great place to be serving.
Next, Kelsey's going to talk to us about her experiences.
So I was at the Coastal Land Trust as the volunteer coordinator and the environmental education coordinator. The mission of the Coastal Land Trust is to protect coastal lands that have scenic, recreational, historic, and ecological value. So we do this by having conservation easements or owning different properties in title. And that is over 80,000 acres of land that we manage. And so working here, I focused on volunteer coordination. So we had trail days monthly and different environmental education events. And then also we have our environmental education program, which serves 3rd through 5th graders with 3 different curriculums focused on pollination, longleaf pines, and carnivorous plants. So we brought these programs into different schools, and once things went virtual, we started creating online programming. I also got to get a peek into what it takes to manage the lands that the Coastal Land Trust has protected. So that looked like going out and monitoring these different protected areas and really getting to know the different communities that we have properties on. So yeah.
And finally, to sum up our host sites, Katie is going to walk us through UNCW.
So I was based at UNCW's Marinequest, which is housed at the Center for Marine Science. So we're pretty spoiled. As you can see on the map, we're like right off of the Intracoastal Waterway. So we have access to like beautiful views all the time, which is super great. Marinequest's mission is to offer programming that provides young people with opportunities to explore and discover and value our environmental areas. And within Marinequest, I oversaw the Storm Surge Protectors Project, which is a citizen science project that focuses on engaging the community around wetlands and wetland health and wetlands importance in mitigating hurricane damage. So within that program, we are taking folks out to field sites. We have 4 throughout New Hanover County, 1 in Wrightsville Beach, 2 in Fort Fisher State Park Recreation Area, and 1 in the Carolina Beach State Park area. And our main objective is just to get people familiar with what field work looks like and making observational data about the vegetation that's present. So looking at the plants that help to absorb some of that extra water that's associated with tidal events or large tropical storms.
Thanks, Katie. Next, we're going to go to Greenfield Lake, and Emma is going to talk about Lake Fest.
Awesome. So Lake Fest was a festival hosted by Cape Fear Riverwatch, Audrey's organization, and it was a ton of fun. It was it featured all different environmental organizations who provided activities for kids and their families. And it was really a great event. I was there representing the Bald Head Island Conservancy, and I brought a live box turtle with me, which was really fun to show the kids. And Audrey's organization was there as well.
Of course, I was there too. We had dozens of volunteers there. We were leading eco tours around the lake. People were paddling on the lake. And we had, I think, over 600 people attended. So it was a really great outreach experience. Next, we're going to travel to Fort Fisher, where Katie's going to talk about the Fall Festival.
Awesome. Yeah. So the Fort Fisher Fall Festival was my first outreach event. It was hosted by the North Carolina State Parks and Recreation Services. And you can see our booth set up with one of my volunteers, Ian. So we brought some plants and some different games to talk about hurricanes and categorization of hurricanes, because that's really relevant to this area since we're on the coast of North Carolina. And I want to say that we, talked to like well over 300 people. So it was a really nicely attended event. It was super nice to get out into the community.
Next, Kelsey and Emma are going to talk about Fire in the Pines.
Yeah, so Fire in the Pines was held at Halliburton Park in Wilmington. This event is put on by the Nature Conservancy, and it's in partnership with the Coastal Land Trust. This event highlights the importance of fire in our ecosystem, and we do this by having a variety of different organizations come out, holding different educational crafts and opportunities for the public to learn about the importance of fire and its role in the community. And then I focused on doing an educational craft with the public there. And Emma came along too. She had a booth right next to mine.
Yeah, that was really great to be. This was a super fun event for a lot of reasons. So I was right next to Kelsey, like she said, which was great to be alongside another AmeriCorps service member. And I also got to interact with some students who had been on field trips on Bald Head Island. So I got to talk to them and their families, and that was really cool to see them a second time at this event. And then, like Kelsey said, they did a controlled burn, which was really cool. We had a front row seat to it, and that was something that I had never experienced before. And it was really just made it a super cool, very special event.
So next we're gonna leave the coast and travel all the way up to Greensboro, where we had the AmeriCorps member lunch. So this was a very cool experience because not only did we get to see everyone else in our cohort, which we don't always get to see them, but we also met and did activities with hundreds of other AmeriCorps members across the state and learned a little bit more about the other types of activities and work that AmeriCorps is doing in North Carolina. We tacked on to that a disaster response training, and we learned how to muck and gut, which is something that was actually turned out to be helpful because we mucked and gutted for our Martin Luther King Jr. Service Day, which Kelsey's going to talk about in just a moment. So now we can jump on over to the mountains where Emma's going to talk about our mid-year training.
Awesome. So for mid-year training, we went all the way out to Montreat College. And I almost didn't go all the way to Montreat College because, as I said before, there's only one ferry that runs to my host site, and it was delayed because of fog that morning. So I almost was stuck on the island. This is a photo that I took at the ferry terminal that morning while I was apologizing to everyone who was waiting for me up in Wilmington. But I did make it, and so we went all the way out to Montreat College where we did lots of bonding. This is us with a few of our other AmeriCorps members, Laura and Stephen. And so it was just great to come together and explore the area in the mountains. We wish we had more time. We also did an EE workshop. We did Project Owl, which we're doing in the courtyard here. And we also did some more diversity, equity, and inclusion training with Courtney Parker West. So it was a really great experience, and we did a lot of bonding in our 12-passenger van while we drove diagonally across the state.
Kelsey, do you want to talk about MLK Day?
Yeah, so on January 20th, we honored Martin Luther King Jr. Day by serving with Habitat for Humanity, and we joined a group there and worked on remediating this house located in Rocky Point, North Carolina. So we started the day off by taking everything out from the inside of the house. So this was this person's possessions that had gotten damaged. And we moved on to ripping out the insides, getting all the drywall out, getting all of the debris from the floor. And after we completely took everything out of the inside, we started working on the yard. And we were only there for a few hours, but we really were able to completely strip that house and get it ready for its next steps, which was really important to see how much a group of people can get done, because that would have taken the Habitat folks probably over a week to have done that work we did in just a couple hours. And we also got to meet the owner of the house, and he shared his story, and it was really inspiring to see how this affected him and how he's going to be able to move forward with getting his home back to a livable condition.
I'll also add to you that this particular house was damaged from a hurricane, and the four of us all work in some type of educational outreach component that talks about the importance of the land around us and also the extreme weather events that the coast of North Carolina faces. So it was really interesting to see sort of we talk a lot about the science, and it was interesting to see the effects and impacts on this community on just how damaging it can be and how overwhelming it can be once your house is damaged. So it was really nice to talk with him.
Definitely. All right, next we're going to move back to Wilmington. The next time we were together was at Striperfest. Striperfest is another community education day put on by Cape Fear River Watch. Normally we do it with as well a fishing tournament and a silent auction. It's like a 3-component event, but 2 of those things ended up being canceled because of COVID. So we were together at the education day. It's another outreach event. Katie, Emma, and I were all there. We did tabling and outreach. There's fun activities. The goal of Striper Fest is to celebrate the fisheries restoration along the Cape Fear River, which Cape Fear River Watch is very involved in. It's just to celebrate, the renewal of fish populations, specifically striped bass, which we're really concerned about. So that's Katie's table. We have tons of little activities like microscopes to look through, and artwork and painting and a puppet show. And yeah, it was a really great day. So next, Katie is going to take us up to Hanging Rock State Park to talk about our service day.
So a huge component of what we do as AmeriCorps service members is that we participate in these service days, like our MLK Junior Service Day, and one of them was in collaboration with the Parks Department of North Carolina. So we traveled up to Hanging Rock State Park, and we got to assist the park rangers with a couple projects that, similar to the house, would have taken a really long time without I think there was about 15 of us that were there. Here you can see us making a pedestrian trail path, so we're just laying down dirt and gravel so that folks had a place to walk as they enter the park. And you see just like a handful of us, but like I said, if there wasn't the 15 of us, it would have taken a lot longer to create that trail. We also went around and replaced all of the campsite signs. So we added new ones, dug out the old ones that were rotting, and just helped with whatever the park rangers needed. And then this is a group photo of all the Conservation Trust of North Carolina folks that were able to attend Hanging Rock. You see some of the different tools that we use to do the different projects. We were up there for, I don't know, like 9 hours or 8 hours. It was a pretty long day, but it was really nice. We spent the entire day outside and just bonding and learning from the park rangers about the history of the park, and it was a really wonderful experience.
So do you want to talk to us a little bit about environmental education now, Katie?
Absolutely. So from Hanging Rock State Park, we went back to Haw River State Park, and we participated in our environmental education certification training that went over the methods of how we engage with the community about different environmental education topics and science topics. So this was a 2-day training. And we're really lucky in the state of North Carolina that they offer this environmental education certification. It's a pretty rigorous certification process. I don't know how many hours off the top of my head, but it's like well over 150 hours of different trainings and workshops and collaborative projects and curriculum development that really allows us to engage with each other as educators to make sure that we are utilizing the best language and tools and experiences for the community so that they can feel like empowered citizens who really can make a difference and consider the environment as we make decisions. So this was a 2-day training back at Haw River, and we were really excited to be back. As you recall, this was our initial meeting spot. So not all of the Conservation Trust of North Carolina AmeriCorps members were in attendance, but you can see that there was like a small cohort of us, which was really fun.
So Emma, do you want to talk about what happened next?
Yeah, so on our way home from that EE workshop that Katie just talked about was when the very first case of coronavirus appeared in Wake County. So after this, in March, beginning of March, things started to kind of happen pretty quickly. And there was the pandemic that we've all come to know very well. So I personally moved off of Bald Head Island. The only way to get to and from the island was public transportation, and so it was not safe to stay there. And so I moved back to Virginia, where I worked remotely for AmeriCorps. And all of our host sites had to adapt to the situation and start creating online virtual learning opportunities. And I think that everyone was able to really do a remarkable job of that in a rapidly changing situation. And so I, like I said, went back to Virginia, but Katie and Audrey started working at the food bank. So I'll let her talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, so Katie and I shifted some of our service hours to working at the food bank of Eastern and Central North Carolina. We worked there 3 days a week, and we did a lot of things. We sorted through and packed potatoes. We created emergency food boxes to distribute to families in need. We sorted through Capri Suns, through apples, just tons of sorting and organizing. We had some fun with the potatoes. We found a lot of different shapes. But it was necessary for us to be there because, of course, volunteers were not allowed to be there in the large groups they're normally there in. And as well, many people didn't feel safe getting out of their homes at the time. So at the same time, there was a 100% increase in demand for emergency food from families in the area. So it was really important to still make sure that work was going on. So Katie and I were there sort of filling that void of the volunteers. We served in the end around 65 hours there, and we packed over 7,000 meals that were then distributed into the community. The National Guard ended up also working there, and now as time passes, more and more volunteers are coming back. So that's good to see. So Kelsey, do you want to wrap us up?
Yeah, so overall, we've gotten to have a really great experience here in the Wilmington area. We want to thank everyone for joining us today, and we hope that you are inspired to maybe volunteer or look into an AmeriCorps program in your area, or it's a great opportunity to try out a different part of the country. So we wouldn't have been able to do this without the support of our Conservation Trust for North Carolina supervisors, Nick and Lacey. They were the glue that held us together. And then our site supervisors as well were really important in the fulfillment of this program. And we just really loved serving the Wilmington area.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.